Alright. I'm hoping that the microphone picks me up on account of the wind, and I'm using my mobile phone other than my camera. It's been a while since I've done my my last vlog thing. I don't really have an excuse, but might as well update this reflection blog. Something I've been thinking about is I haven't really done much reflecting, I suppose. So this is the Easter holidays, and so I'm on holiday, of course. I'm not in college for the next 2 weeks, so I have lots of time to do other stuff on the project rather than wait for intervals between bus stops rather. Let's see, so I showed, because a good place to start is what my tutors thought when I showed them my work into my blog. Of course, they can't have a look at my reflective vlog journal thing at a time, because it'd be quicker just to go through the stuff they can immediately read and look at. And that's just to say, I didn't have a post on my blog which I should about the roots of this project, or at least this idea. And I mentioned in my vlog, but of course it's not good enough. So just to clarify, the roots are, what if somebody got the entire forearm replaced with this kind of weapon that, say, Mega Man would have, or Samus Aran from the Metroid series. And the thought stemmed from there to probably be a heavy weapon. You would need something to help you pick it up, whatnot. So an exoskeleton to help you lift it will be in order. And of course, a lot of other apparatuses, if that is the plural, like aiming, support, conventional armor. So I'll be writing more about that on my blog, of course. Something else which I hadn't really thought about is the deeper world, as in the history, the background to this. Now, what I've already clarified is this is a military weapon project sort of thing, for this new kind of weapon, which, although maybe slightly slower than bullets, I have done some calculations which I'll put up at some point. Well, I'll put it up with the background blog post. But, other than that, it's very self-centered. It ignores whatever might be happening on the outside. The tutor was asking about what's it for? Why would anybody consider using this? What's the current state of warfare? This is a military weapon. Are they using it in space? What are they fighting? Whatnot? As much as I haven't gone that far with what it would be planned to be used on the field, as in depth as that, I have been thinking about the background to the people who developed and built this project. Obviously, I'll probably work on it more because it's slightly more on the obvious side. Not much, though. So, what I've come up with, I typed this on my laptop actually because I did the internet on the bus, and what I came up with was, what was it? It was, the way the military works is other companies are paid to develop stuff for them or produce weaponry for them. So I made up my own, but to make it less, this company has everything you could possibly need, like Star Labs or whatever one Iron Man had. I split up the plasma cyborg project thing between 3 companies. I can't remember the names of them from the top of my head, but one of them deals with physics and chemistry, just the more technological side. So, research facility who offer usually chemical incendiary grenades, just more powerful chemicals or fuel alternatives, or just better batteries for using in the field. It'll probably last longer or much later. And they, of course, from the sounds of things, are the ones who are going to apply the plasma technology part of this project. The second company work with vehicles and heavy vehicles, just mechanics and whatnot. Mechanics and computers. So they produce vehicles for or just heavy duty stuff for the military, and they'll be offering technology on their exoskeleton suits, which I've used. Well, I don't know if I might have used it. I might have put it in my exoskeleton / prosthetic research, but I think it's Korea or China. In a shipyard, they have their own exoskeleton suits, which help them pick up large bits of steel and other metals. So using that, I thought that a company that makes heavy duty vehicles for the military would use something like that. Just makes sense to me. And of course they also offer their mechanical support to other companies as well as vehicles. Ooh, wow. Parents asked me to go, my parents told me that when I go on this walk, for the obvious reason that I'm not feeling well, so I thought going on a walk will help. They did say don't go near the rivers because they are really overflowing. It's not looking too good. Excuse me, sorry. So I did mention I wasn't feeling well, which explains why I'm walking. Either I haven't got enough sleep, which makes sense. I was up at a ridiculous time last night playing Cards Against Humanity with friends. I haven't drunk enough water, which is something which I definitely think could cause the headaches I'm having and whatnot. Or I'm coming down with a virus or just a cold or whatever, probably a virus because my brother's just come out of one. Now that context is filled in, let's continue. The third company are the ones offering just basic combat gear. They already build weapons and combat armor and bulletproof stuff. So that's very self-explanatory. They offer security as well for the other companies. So what I'm saying is these three companies, they offer each other their services, which is like a fair trade, and they all work on, they all produce stuff for the military. So I think this makes sense because, I'll be frank, I mentioned a while ago I was mildly addicted to Civilization 5, which actually I haven't played in a while, so I don't think I think everything just sort of wears off quickly. Short term, I guess. And from that, I started learning about trade deals and whatnot, because I'm going on now. My dad's very political. He always has something to say about this whole Brexit stuff or leaving the EU. So he's mentioned a fair few times. About the trade deals and how we have currently really good ones, and leaving the EU would mean we'd have to set those up again, and it would be useless because it took us ages to do it in the first place. And because we're not in the EU, they won't be as good. It's just, leaving the EU will dismantle what makes this country just work. Slightly off topic, during the beginning of this talk, he mentioned that there are people who are like, if we leave the EU, we'll have independence and we can kick out the tourists or just the foreigners, immigrants and whatnot, which of course is blatantly racist. But of course, I suppose there are some who believe the same thing but have other opinions that go towards that, or research rather. But Dad did note that leaving the EU would mean that the French don't have to stop immigrants going through the Eurostar tunnel and whatnot, and pretty much will open the floodgates and it'll make things worse. This was a few years ago, so I'm probably mishearing it, but either way, from playing Civilization 5 and learning a bit about the EU and trade deals, it makes sense that these three companies making stuff for the military would also work with each other to help each other progress, get better. Oh wow, things are just getting worse. Use canoe down that, or kayak rather. Either one will do. I actually kind of like the idea of both. But then again, it's so muddy I can't tell how deep it is. So those are the three companies. And of course the one with the plasma technology suggests like a board meeting, something, this almost super soldier who is capable of, well, here's what the advantage of having these plasma weapons is. Because how plasma works, it gets hotter than the surface of the sun, or at least that's how plasma torches go. Firing that at a person would just immediately burn a hole through them. And you're seeing plasma is obviously going to be almost weightless. And bullets, well, the bigger they get, the more heavy they get. So it's probably going to be even slower when you fire an RPG at somebody. So with this plasma weapon, you could burn through someone easily, and it could be made larger. But of course, the weapon will probably be heavier, but the ammunition much, much lighter. As well as that, it runs off electricity and gas, which makes the ammunition incredibly cheaper than you would think. I didn't mention that the speed is slower on the plasma weapon compared to the average bullet, which is fine, because so long as you aim for a vital organ, well, you've burned through a person and, of course, one of their vital organs. So it's probably going to end up being somewhat of a fatality, maybe. Plus, there'll be virtually no force put into it. Maybe. Actually, I wouldn't think there'll be no force in it. It is making a projectile, so the force to fire something will have to have some kind of recoil. So I wouldn't say oh, excuse me. I wouldn't say that there's no repercussion. So there's the setup for how the idea was conceived and who was behind the idea. Now, all that needs to be done now is build up the rest of the story. So, obviously, at the moment, I'm imagining it like a bit like a tree, or like one of those mind maps. So you have the finished product, and imagine it's a timeline going backwards. The project split into three, which connects to each company, and there'll be little lines in between, a bit like parents on a family tree, which explains it explains their association to each other, and from those three, they are all attached to the military. So that's all we have. We have the three companies all connected, and those three connected to the military, and all three are connected separately to the plasma soldier cyborg idea. I need to come up with a name for this project. Unfortunately, the only two things which come to mind are Mega Man and Proto Man. Mega Man's obvious. Proto Man is what I've been nicknaming the prototype 3D models, which I'll talk more about later. No, I'll talk about that in the next vlog, because I think working on the story now makes more sense to me. That, I'm coming up to the local pub, so I'm gonna sit there, have a drink, and then come back again. But that's the story. What happens to the project? That's where I'm trying to figure out a story. However, I know that there are sort of showrooms or whatever showing off these are new weapons products, and military generals go through and they pick out what they like. What if this were to happen, and much like how my tutor, actually when I suggested this kind of idea but slightly underdeveloped, so there isn't like the three companies, when I suggested it to him, he said, no, that doesn't quite work. Well, paraphrased, but yeah. So what if I use that as the reaction the military will have towards the weapon, and then from there I can think of maybe a revenge story, because I know he likes sci-fi movies, maybe comics, I'm not sure. I say maybe comics because he's probably sick of the Marvel Extended Universe at this point. And I could use that to extend to a military kind of project. Or not military project, a military revenge scheme. And I'll think about it later.